Due to a shock facing Cameroon's economy, the Ministry of Finance has ordered the suspension of funds for external financing bet of projects relating to the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations. Plus, the International Crisis Group has praised the government of Cameroon for putting up a brilliant fight against the Boko Haram sect in the Far North region within the past 3 years, but called on the government to step up measures to manage former militants and empower the vigilante groups. Those are my list stories, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, and thanks for joining me. I am Henry Wana at the anchor in Douala. The International Crisis Group has praised the government of Cameroon for weakening the operational capacities of the Boko Haram sect in the Far North region. In a recent report, the NGO, however, calls on the government of Cameroon to step up measures to manage former militants and empower the vigilante groups. Peter Sose read through the report and packaged this story for us.
Violence in northern Cameroon by Nigeria's Boko Haram jihadists has diminished, but the International Crisis Group has warned that rooting out their threat will need deft handling. In its latest report, the think tank also reveals the intensity of the conflict against Boko Haram in Cameroon's Far North region has diminished as operations are limited to small-scale attacks, the use of explosive devices, and ineffective suicide bombings. So far, CAM is gradually returning to the once safe area as a series of security measures introduced by regional authorities in July 2015, including ban on motorbikes and a curfew, are no longer applied, though they have not been officially lifted. Women now wear the burqa, and trade has resumed along the Cameroon-Nigerian border at Amshidi since 2017. Cameroon's defense forces have captured more than 1,000 suspected terrorists since 2014, accepting the surrender of about 200 between October and December 2017. But the movement still poses a threat, and the humanitarian situation remains precarious. Cameroonian authorities have been more than willing to accept Boko Haram deserters, the International Crisis Group says. But it wants the government to strengthen this policy by announcing it will protect surrendering Boko Haram members and afford them due process. It also wants Cameroonian authorities to devise a program of support to help former jihadis reintegrate in the community. As for the vigilantes, authorities have been called to keep closer supervision of their activities, train them better, demobilize them in areas where they are not needed, and investigate all accusations of abuses by them. International support for measures to deal with former Boko Haram members and the vigilante will be critical given the lack of local expertise and the strain on public finances with the October 7 presidential elections looming and Cameroon hosting the African Cup of Nations next year.
The call for funds for external financing has been suspended except for projects related to the 2019 AFCON in Cameroon. The move by the Ministry of Finance comes at a time when Cameroon's economy is facing shocks. Once more, Peter Sose.
698 billion francs CFA, the amount constituting the call for funds on external financial resources by the government of Cameroon. This is 100 billion more than the 596 billion francs CFA disbursed by the International Monetary Fund within the Extended Credit Facility Scheme. In a bid to effectively manage public financing and external debt, the Minister of Finance has made it clear to his colleague of Economy, Planning and Regional Development that he will suspend all calls for funds on external financial resources except those related to the 2019 African Cup of Nations. The move comes at a time when the country is not reaping enough from its oil products in the world market, despite a slight surge in commodity prices. This has also been compounded by the inability to maximize customs revenue, partly due to the economic partnership agreement with the EU. The Boko Haram insurgency in the Far North region, rebel incursions from the Central African Republic in the east, plus an escalating secession crisis in the northwest and southwest regions has compelled the government to go deeper into the state purse, invest heavily in the military in a bid to restore order to these zones where economic activities have been badly hit. The African Development Bank, in its report on the economic perspective of the continent, had indicated that Cameroon's economy, despite its resilience, will feel the weight of these shocks. One of the reasons which has always pushed the IMF to prescribe cautious spending to Cameroonian authorities. Economic analysts predict that the suspension, which comes 4 months to the end of the current budgetary year, could have a big influence on the drawing of the 2019 finance bill.
Let's now talk health. In this newscast, an international forum on hepatitis is underway in Douala. Recent statistics show that Cameroon is one of the countries with a high prevalence rate of the killer disease. Health experts are therefore using the forum to strategize ways of combating the viral disease by 2030. Darlene Feje.
Going by the World Health Organization, over 23 million people are infected with the viral hepatitis disease in the world, and the majority of the carriers are ignorant of the existence of the virus in their system. Some 1.4 million persons die of hepatitis B and C each year worldwide. In Cameroon, the situation is worrisome, with the prevalence of hepatitis B and C, with nearly 1/5 of the population infected.
Hepatitis B is about 12%, and hepatitis C, the current statistic is between 1 and 3%, instead of the 15% they were saying before. So the real prevalence is 1 to 3%. This means a lot of patients, because our population, if you integrate this to our population, you see there is a lot of people to treat. And the main problem is that we don't have all these hepatitis carriers, because they are not screened. So we have to screen them and to know that they have hepatitis, and then we follow up.
Out of the 10,000 deaths of cirrhosis and liver cancer recorded each year in the country, 80% stems from the viral hepatitis B and C, deaths which medics believe can be prevented through the systematic vaccination of infants at birth and protected sexual intercourse.
The main way of transmission we must fight against is mother-to-child transmission, and we are going to focus on that. Because in Cameroon we are doing some progress regarding that. Because the other mode of transmission is sexual, but mainly by blood. So we must secure the blood transmission. But if we succeed to cancel the mother-to-child transmission, it is going to be a great thing for Cameroon, because most of the child contaminated are going to go to cirrhosis. So we have to cancel the transmission, and the ministry is helping us to follow the pregnant woman and to vaccinate the newborns.
An international forum on the different types of hepatitis is ongoing in Douala. For 2 days, health experts from different countries will strategize on mechanisms to end hepatitis by 2030.
Now, talking about the treatment of hepatitis B and C in the country, health experts say the costs in the treatment of the silent killer have witnessed a great reduction over the years. Let's have more in the following extract.
This month, the minister has ordered to reduce the treatment of hepatitis C to 150,000 francs for the 3 months. This is very low. Only for this month. And you know that the treatment of hepatitis B is tenofovir. The cost is 3,000 francs a month. This is very low. But we hope in the next years it's going to be free.
Now open a political back whereby the Constitutional Council has until tomorrow, August 17, to proclaim the verdict of 12 petitions received from presidential aspirants whose files were rejected by ILECAM. Let's revisit the reasons why their files were rejected by ILECAM.
These petitions focus on reinstating the candidacies of some disgruntled candidates. Olivier Billet of Union pour la Fraternité, whose file was flushed out for not meeting of the financial requirement of 30 million CFA francs, has appealed for permission to deposit the amount. Reverend Bertin Kissop, leader of the Cameroon Party for Social Justice, strongly believes his case should be considered despite his inability to raise the expected caution. Jomo Leopold of UREC and Reverend Gambang Rigobert, who also failed to provide the 30 million caution and the 300 signatories from the 10 regions of the country, pray the Constitutional Council validate their files Other candidates who have petitioned for their files to be reviewed are Professor Justin Francois Fouda, Abubakar Kamaldin, earlier eliminated for financial reasons, Geneviève Z. Ambung, amongst others.
Honorable Joshua Nabangi Osi, during yesterday's press conference at his headquarters here in Douala, equally made some declarations about the upcoming presidential elections. Take a listen.
But if I am running for this election, it's because I believe that we can force this election to be acceptable. It is much better to have a free and fair electoral process, a free and fair electoral code, if I can put it that way. But I think that today, the electoral code is in such a way that if all Cameroonians come out and vote and defend their vote, we can have the change we're dreaming of, and we've been dreaming of for such a long time. And let me tell you one thing. When I engaged myself on this journey, I knew that the destination is a 2D. And right now, talking to you, I have absolutely no doubt on that. So I want to reassure you that we will be able to make sure that the wish of the majority of Cameroonians is respected by this government, and is respected by ELECAM, and is respected by this electoral process that we have agreed to go in. We are not saying the electoral process is clean. We are saying that with the present electoral process, Cameroonians can bring about change. That is what we're saying. The violence is being perpetrated on the people in the southwest and the northwest regions of Cameroon, but the political problem that causes this violence is in a 2D. And if you don't change the person sitting in a 2D, you are not helping to solve the problem in the northwest and the southwest. And when you are doing that, do it with someone who understands the problem, who understands why this issue is happening, and with someone who in his program has the solution to that problem. Because the solution to that problem is federalism, and that's what I stand for. The electoral process includes registration that makes it such that many Cameroonians, because of various reasons, nonetheless being that of having an ID card, that many Cameroonians are not part of the electoral process. Officially, the UN systems tell us that about 160 to 200,000 people are internally displaced. We believe that there are about 600,000 to 800,000 people, because those living in Mr. Babila's house in Douala are not counted for because they are not in the bush. But they too have a right to vote. And they are probably registered in Bali instead of being on the electoral list here. And what we have suggested to ELECAM is to make it such that all those who were registered before the elections were called up and are no longer in their various locations, in the places where they were registered to vote, should be allowed to go to ELECAM to change the polling station to reflect the place in which they are today for the sake of this presidential election. That will make it such that if you, Mr. Babila, as many other Anglophones, you have a certain number of people who have escaped Bali and are in your residence waiting for the violence to calm down, those people should be allowed to vote wherever you live. That's the position we took. We went further and gave dispositions for the refugees to be allowed to vote. And we have a commission in place at the level of ELECAM, working at this time with ELECAM to push them to come to that conclusion. I had this very discussion with the Minister of Territorial Administration, who informed me, who told me that he has nothing against that proposal.
Honorable Joshua Nabangi Osi, flag bearer of the ruling opposition or the leading opposition political party, talking there. Traders at the Sadaga market in Douala continue to battle with the heavy downpour in the city as the rainy season intensifies. Though a difficult task to embark on daily basis, vendors have developed diverse ways of keeping themselves safe as well as their good. Darlene Feje.
This is Marché Sadaga, a typical example of markets in Douala during the rainy season. During this wet period, vendors find it difficult to make ends meet.
Actually, things are very, very difficult and very hard for us now. You know, there's a lot of rain actually, and with this rain, there's a lot of things that come out from the farm. You know, there's water now in the soil, so things is produced very fastly. So now we face difficulties because, you know, when it rains a lot in the morning, customer don't come. Few buys and sells that come and buy it and go, but the permanently one in the house don't come.
When there's raining like this, there's no market. We are just struggling to sell under the rain because if you go and stand behind, you will not sell. All the cheap will be there packed. Nobody will buy because we cannot put umbrella here.
Some of them have, however, devised methods to protect themselves and their goods.
When rain fall, we use umbrella.
When it rains, we use umbrellas, and some women usually come along and buy our goods.
You could even see this one we build here. We just try to contribute ourselves here to do it, but we're under the rain. We sell under the rain.
Rain or no rain, these traders of Marché Sananga in the Douala 1 municipality are unanimous on one thing: business must go on. We sell under the rain. We are fully aware this is the rainy season, so we cannot run away from it. We leave our houses to look for our daily bread, so under the rain or sun, we must sell to have some money to take care of our homes. We have no choice. Aware of the bad state of markets during this season, especially on rainy days, some buyers take necessary precautions.
You know, now it's July and it's rainy season, especially here in Marché Sandaga. All the time it's muddy. You know, they are selling spices here. Even if you don't, when it's not raining, with the spices there's mud always. If it's raining, I wear my boots and my raincoat before coming to the market. If it's raining, if it's not raining, I don't mind. I wear only my boots because there's mud always.
Even though very few customers show up, especially when it rains heavily, these wholesalers and retailers of foodstuff hope for better sales ahead.
Let's now get news out of Cameroon with the VOA.
A city is emerging from Senegal's countryside with brand new buildings and others still under construction. Welcome to Dayamniadio. A massive project in one of the poorest countries on the planet has an estimated cost of more than $2 billion. The goal is to relieve congestion in Dakar, the capital home to 3 million of the country's 15 million inhabitants. Seydou Sissal is in charge of promoting Dayamniadio.
The project is part of the Emergent Senegal Plan, aimed at creating more wealth and jobs in Greater Dakar. But its effect will be felt throughout the country. The project is based on economic features and events. Because we have noticed for some time now that business tourism is growing, the President of the Republic plans to make Dakar sub-regional and even international hub.
Government officers have already started relocating to Dayamniadio. In July, the ministerial city welcomed its first tenant, the Ministry of Agriculture.
We used to drive 40-50 minutes, even an hour, to get to the office because of traffic jams. Today, from my home to Dayamniadio, it takes about 20 minutes. This is a really huge time savings. And also, we found here an ideal setting for work. It is calm, it is clean. We do not envy developed countries in terms of workplace environment.
The mega project is not without criticism. For experts, the social housing it includes will not be within the reach of people on the minimum wage.
Housing experts say homes here would cost between $20,000 to $40,000, far out of reach for people earning the average wage of around $200 a month. And, as is the case in many developing countries, this kind of mega project displaces people, creating tensions in local communities. Not far from Dayamniadio, the village of Denimaligay lacks basic infrastructure. Its inhabitants say they are affected by the new city.
We're not against the Emerging Senegal initiative, but they should at least respect us. What does it mean? It means communicating with us, informing us. You come grab our lands without compensation. They just compensate farm losses, but not the land. And when we speak up, we're told the land is part of national domain.
Despite the criticism, Diamniadio continues to take shape. The final 2 phases of the city are scheduled to be completed by 2035. From the Diamniadio city in Senegal, Jacques Aristide, VOA News.
Let's now talk sports football. The Northwest and Central Regional Pools of the National Football Academy, ANAFUT, have been encouraged by the top management of the academy for a job well done during the selection process to ensure a smooth start of training in the academy come next month. Let's have the Director General of the academy, Ka Enom, as well as the head of the Northwest Regional Pool of ANAFUT make an appraisal of today's ceremony.
Actually, we wanted to receive the regional pool of the Northwest and the Center to encourage them, because to succeed in life, you must pass through these stages. And we wanted to transmit them the message that they must work very hard if they want to be accomplished footballer. At the same time, it was our first participation. The reason why our interest wasn't to grab the trophy, but we wanted to see the team spirit, how disciplined the players were, and I want to show you that we are really satisfied. And I want to use the opportunity to thank all the experts that went around the country to select these young players. And I want to show you that we are quite confident concerning the future of young footballers. I want to talk about Cameroonian young footballers because we think that we've got everything back home. We just need good follow-up. We need to train them very well. In the next 5-6 years, they'll be joining various teams in Cameroon. Why not some of them succeeding in the international level?
I want to first of all say that I'm very pleased with the reception, because before coming here, we didn't expect that we'll be received the way we received today. Because it's here that they inform us that the PCA will receive us. So I want to say that I'm very, very happy. It's proof of the hard work that we have been doing all this while. We came for the competition with some doubts, taking into consideration that it was our first participation. So we're coming to, first of all, discover the competition and maybe know how to prepare better next time. But when we came, we discovered that it was within reach. So I was able to use my little expertise to put the boys in place. And luckily, the boys too were very receptive, taking to instructions, play this way they played, go this way they went. So I think I work with a group of children who are willing to play football. And taking into consideration too that we have worked just for a few months, I want to say that I appreciate their effort. I want to say congratulations to them.
And that does it for today's English Primetime, ladies and gentlemen, on Spectrum Television. We thank you all for watching. See you tomorrow. Good night.